Hello, guys. Good evening. Getting ready to review with you the daily movement pillar, one of our integral parts of our metabolic reset and our metabolic health is daily movement and exercise. So, this is a big one, and I hope to break it down for you in our intro tonight. But if you don't know this already, which you probably do, moving your body is an important piece of our overall health and our metabolic health. Our daily movement and exercise posts will be in blue, so follow along if movement or daily movement or exercise is part of your goal in our whole program, something that you're working on. So, my name is Wendy Kohler. If we haven't met before, I love this topic because I am trained as a physiotherapist. I went to school for 7 years post grad to become a physiotherapist, and I worked in that area for around 14 years before I jumped into the natural health world. So, I'm no longer in that world, but that was or has been my area of expertise for a long time now. Okay, so where do we even start? Well, I would venture to say that many of us in this metabolic group will have movement or exercise goals. Let us know in the chat if you're one of those people. And let us know in the chat, are you currently doing any regular movement and what kind? Now, be honest. This is we've created this group so we can share, so we can be authentic, and so that we can support one another. So I'll admit that over the last couple of years, yeah, I really dropped off my exercise routine. I jumped off a lot of things, and my motivation to engage in anything was pretty low. Like, I did a lot of functional movement here around our property, but I wasn't really consistent. I couldn't pick up the consistency and stick with it for an exercise, like continuous routine. And I have my doctorate in physical therapy. I know how good movement is for the body. I know the downfalls when we're not doing this. And Facebook's giving me some weird cues. I don't know what it's for. Doesn't matter. Hopefully I'm live, and if I'm not, well, I'll do this again. Okay, so maybe you're like me and you've fallen off the wagon, or maybe you haven't returned to your workouts after the gyms were all closed down, or maybe you struggle with pain and you've been limited in what you can do for now. And this is a little side note, but a side benefit of this program, depending on how much you engage and how much you follow, is that you should experience a reduction in inflammation in your body. When we reduce sugars, if we're following the nutrition pillar, and when we feed our body with the right nutrition and smart supplementation, and we reduce those blood sugar spikes by participating in regular exercise, we will reduce inflammation and pain, which should lead you to the ability to do more exercise, depending on what the case is. But that being said, friends, you cannot out exercise a poor diet. Sorry, you can't. You might have heard the saying, great abs are not made in the gym, they're made in the kitchen. And that is very true. So that's why we've created this program to be comprehensive and holistic. So don't leave out the nutrition and start smart supplementation piece, okay? If you want optimal results, if you want to maximize your time with us, you'll stick with those as well. So, no matter what your preferred style or form of exercise or movement is, one thing is clear: inactivity can lead to worse metabolic health. Inactivity leads to insulin resistance. Regular movement improves our metabolic health. And when we stop moving, or if we stop moving, our metabolic health suffers and worsens. So it's the whole move it or lose it, which is not a cliche in this case. Many of us have seen that and we've felt it. We've stopped going to the gyms when they shut down and we didn't really get back on track. Or maybe I'm just speaking for myself. But we are here to help you. Okay, so I think we all learned in school that exercise is important for our metabolic function. We know that exercise is important for our cardiovascular health, or our heart and our blood vessel health. We know that it's important for our lungs, our sleep, balancing our hormones, for our strength, and for reducing the risk of falls in older age, for weight management, and for mood management. It has a significant impact on our mental health. Regular movement or exercise is an amazing regulator of insulin sensitivity and overall metabolic function, both during the session, right after the session, and through, if you're consistent, through chronic adaptations that your body makes on a cellular level when you're participating regularly. Daily movement. Not only do you start to manage your blood sugars better, but you also improve your blood flow, you reduce inflammation, like I said before, you increase the number of energy producing cells called mitochondria and their efficiency, and you activate metabolic pathways. According to Dr. David Sinclair, whom I love following, follow him on Instagram, check out his podcasts, read his book called Lifespan. He's a world leading expert on longevity and reversing the aging process. According to him, exercise isn't just beneficial for your vitality, it can actually stop disease, slow down cancer, prevent many diseases from occurring. In those people who exercise and move regularly, statistically, we see a 30% reduction in cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease, and I worked in cardiovascular, is the number one cause of death in North America. Number one. So in people who regularly exercise, we see a 30% reduction in cardiovascular disease. We also see a 27% reduction in all-cause mortality for those who exercise. So it's not just like, hey, I want to look good in a bikini, or, I want to be able to run faster. You can literally reduce your chances of dying. Not your chances of dying. Everyone dies, but you reduce cardiovascular disease. And there's also evidence to support that exercise reverses our biological age. So those who exercise or participate in regular movement are biologically younger than their actual age. And there are lots of cool new things that track and show us that. So that's all great, Wendy, but what do we do? And if you guys are commenting right now, I can't see it because Facebook's giving me some super weird stuff. I really hope it's recording. Facebook, you're my favorite. Okay, so that's all great, but what do we do? Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of information on some options to get started tonight, and then over the course of our program, here's what you can expect as we go. We're going to dive deeper into the different types of exercise and what the benefits are so that you can pick something with more intention. Okay, we're going to share demonstrations of exercise routines. We're going to be bringing a personal trainer specialist on with us to discuss some great options that she likes to talk about. And we're going to talk about when to exercise. Did you know that exercising in a fasted state, so before you've eaten anything, carries greater fat burning benefits? So if you aren't yet into getting up early to get your exercise done, do it. And don't eat anything beforehand. Just have some water and your supplementation. And there's no wrong way to start. So whether you want to start with walking or weights or yoga or HIIT training or spin or dance or swimming, whatever it is, just move your body. Some might say, I hate exercising. Well, something you're going to have to learn to love. That's why we say, find something you love to do that you can keep with consistently. Because I guarantee you that when you're 80 plus and you're using a walker, you're going to wish you had not taken your ability to move your body and exercise for granted. And I would see it all the time at the hospital, all the time. But friends, it doesn't have to be super intense or hard to get started. If you've been sedentary, let me give you some hope. Some of the newest findings, and if I busted out my exercise physiology textbook from my doctorate program 15 years ago, I'd have to blow the dust off at first. And so much has changed in this field that a lot of that information would be fairly obsolete. It's not even just calories in, calories out anymore. If you want to look at weight maintenance or weight loss, there's so much more out there. But the newest findings are that participating in 50 to 75, but let's start at the low end if you're just getting started, 50 minutes of exercise per week, spread out, can begin to improve your metabolic health. So that's 10 or 15 minutes a day, 3 to 4 times a week. Let's see if we can get it up to 7 days a week of at least 10 minutes a day, but spread out 50 minutes over the course of a week is enough to get you going. You also want to, another reason you want to space it out is that you want to give your body, your muscles, your system time to heal and adapt, time to create these new blood vessels, time to create these new mitochondria. Other findings, regularly moving, even a walk around the block, boosts your metabolism to help you use up excess energy to burn fat and improve your heart health. A great tip is to, okay, obviously, I have already said exercise in a fasted state. But walking after meals is really great too, because it's going to lessen the roller coaster glucose spike that you get that's going to impact your metabolic health. So if we can moderate it more, when you exercise, you actually like drive the blood glucose into your muscle tissue. Therefore, you get less of a spike. So if you can walk after meals, that's going to be really supportive, a really great intentional tip for you. Muscle strengthening exercises are also important. In fact, they can be more important than aerobic exercise in certain situations. In a recent 12-year study out of Harvard, they discovered that strength training is more beneficial than cardiovascular exercise at preventing increases in abdominal fat, which is a marker of chronic disease. So if you're struggling with abdominal fat, this can be a problem, can show chronic disease for later in life, but doing strength training can be more important in that case than aerobic exercise. So exercise influences your metabolism in multiple ways. Dang it, I wish I could see the comments. Oh well. I'm going to talk about 3 key ways in which it boosts metabolism. The first is a no-brainer, the most obvious that all of us can think of. You burn more calories when you're moving or exercising than when you're just sitting here at your desk or not moving. During movement, there are some ways to really ramp things up though. The more muscles involved in your movement, so more full body movements, equals greater energy required so that you're burning more. So swimming, running, lower body, back, core, those are all more full body exercises and they burn more calories. More intense activity burns greater energy as well. So if you're doing high intensity intervals or you're doing interval training, you will also get more burn and an afterburn. When you're using large muscle groups, you're going to have more of an impact. So squats impact your body more than like a bicep curl. Okay, large muscle groups you want to focus on. Continuous movement has a greater impact than, I don't know, let's say a golf swing. Continuous movement like swimming or running or walking at a moderate or faster pace is going to have more benefit than swinging a golf club, let's say. The goal has typically been set for 10,000 steps per day, but I haven't been able to substantiate that through any research, really. You can start to gain impact and effect at 4,000 or 5,000 steps a day. So even if you're like, oh, I can't do 10,000 steps a day, just start and get your body moving and see where you can get to. It's hard to know how far you're walking unless you're tracking. So a Fitbit or something else, or most iPhones are made to track. I know that when I was working at the hospital, I was walking 12 to 15,000 steps a day. And then some nights I was playing competitive volleyball. So I was at least like 20 to 25,000 steps a day. When I started working from home and not walking all over Hell's Half Acre at the hospital, I was down to like 2,000 steps a day. So I had to be really intentional about getting that up because I didn't even realize I wasn't walking very far until I started tracking. And I was like, oh my gosh. So make sure you have something that you can track with. Especially after a meal, you want to walk to moderate those glucose levels so that they're not spiking. And one Asian proverb that I read was 1,000 steps after a meal and you live to 99, something along those lines. So implement that. The second way exercise increases metabolism is that it increases your lean body mass and your resting metabolic rate. So in addition to getting more energy expenditure, like burning through sugars and fats, through movement, exercise can also influence your resting metabolic state. And that is the energy it takes to maintain the vital functions of your organs when you're not moving. So when you're sleeping or when you're resting. Our resting metabolism is actually the largest contributing factor to our body's total energy expenditure. If we can find a way to increase our body's resting metabolic rate, we will naturally burn more calories throughout the day. So how do we do that? We gain more lean body mass. The more lean mass you have, the higher your resting metabolism. The more fat mass you have, the lower, compared to muscle, the lower your metabolism is. Gaining muscle raises your metabolism. Losing muscle lowers it, essentially speaking. So muscle burns more than fat. So the second way in which exercise, particularly resistance exercise, increases metabolism is by increasing lean body mass. One thing I want you to keep in mind, when you complete resistance training or strength training, there is an increase of your resting metabolic rate by 8 to 9% for 3 days or up to 3 days, up to 72 hours. So this is where strength training or resistance training can really be beneficial when you're trying to impact your metabolism and your weight. Maintaining or gaining lean muscle is especially important as we age as well, because it allows us to continue to engage in physical activity, and most of us will lose lean body mass as we age. So the right combination of training and dietary intake, obviously getting your proteins that Andrew was talking about yesterday, will help to prevent us in losing the lean tissue or slowing it down. Or for some cases, you can even reverse the process. And this really has implications in our fall risk and our fall rate and our hip fracture rate and our mortality rate. In a lot of cases, hip fractures can lead to death because of the complications from them. The third way in which exercise can influence metabolism is through the acute post-exercise rise in the metabolic rate, which is basically you start burning more fat for a certain number of hours after the activity. So I sort of touched on that before, but in contrast to aerobic training, resistance exercise typically doesn't burn as many calories during the event, but you get the after effects of the resistance training of continued fat burning or continued fat oxidation, not oxidization, so that you get a dramatic effect following. So after resistance training, certain genes get they get activated, and that helps break fat down into fatty acid, which other other tissues start to use as fuel. So the effects of weight training can ultimately reduce fat stores and put you into a higher resting metabolic rate, which lasts up to 72 hours. And this is directly proportional to the activity type, the number and size of muscle groups worked, and the activity intensity, like I mentioned before. So working your legs, working your core, working your back, full body exercises increases your metabolic function, okay, for several hours afterwards. So if you had to start somewhere, that is where I would start. What else did I want to say here? I got some notes behind us. A movement regimen that includes both cardio and weight training will maximize caloric burn in the moment, and then obviously have that after effect, that fat burning after effect as well. But strength training carries huge benefits, not only just for the afterburn, but it lowers the chance of heart disease, diabetes, gives you stronger bones, enhanced brain function and happiness, and increased self-esteem, to name a few. So there's another bonus too that I wanted to mention that I sort of touched on already. Make sure you get your water intake in, especially when you're talking as fast as me. So a bonus is that I alluded to is exercising in a fasted state. This really amplifies your fat metabolism or fat burning, because it starts to use up those fat stores before it uses any of the simple sugars or the carbs that Andrea was talking about before. So it forces your body or leads your body into producing energy from other sources than just food. Okay, so when we're able to improve our metabolic function and pull from a fasted state, we're starting to gain more metabolic flexibility. And we'll talk more about that for sure. But the added stress of moving while fasting will accelerate the activation of the body's metabolic switch, basically the process through which the body mobilizes and uses its stored fat as an energy source. Once this switch takes place, the body will have access to an abundant supply of energy. So it may be challenging to get you started in this fasted state, but as you do it, you'll become more used to it, and it'll become easier, you'll become less fatigued, and your body will become more flexible in where it sources its energy source from. Whew. So tips on getting started. First, you want to check with your healthcare provider before entering into anything rigorous or vigorous or high interval. Second, increase exercise levels gradually. Start out slow. If you aren't already exercising, like start slow, manageable, so that you're not uber sore. The worst thing you can do is start out, do like this 45-minute session, and you're like, oh man, that felt good, and the next day you can't like wash your hair because your arms and shoulders are so sore. Don't do that. Start lighter, start lower, start with lower weights if you're doing strength exercises or fewer reps, and start to build up. You don't want to be so sore that you can't continue the next day or the 2 days later. When you're starting a workout or exercise routine, slow and steady goes a long way, also for avoiding injury so that we can do things long term. Find a buddy for accountability. Say, hey, I'm really trying to improve my metabolic. I'm trying to improve my endurance, my exercise, whatever you want to say. Would you buddy up with me or help hold me accountable? And use your essential oils to help motivate you and address any soreness along the way, especially when you're starting a routine. So some oils that can help keep you motivated or get you going or wake you up in the morning so you can exercise in your fasted state. Peppermint or spearmint, any mints when inhaled will wake you up. Put a little drop on your hand and lick it as well, and that's going to give you like this fresh burst of energy. Peppermint and wild orange or any other citrus are great for mood enhancing and motivating and giving you sort of that feeling of energy. If you have any breathing challenges that slow you down, Easy Air or Air X on your chest with some coconut oil is fabulous to open up your airways. If you experience muscle soreness, you want to use our deep blue rub, deep blue oil, or deep blue stick in the areas of soreness. And I really love using deep blue before exercise sessions as well. Just don't get it in your eyes ahead of time. But I like it for pre-exercise to prevent any soreness. And then Aroma Touch is a massage blend that we have also for muscle soreness and lymphatic drainage. But if you've got other oils that you love using for exercise or motivating you, let us know. Let us know in the comments. Give us some suggestions. Help us out there. So as I wrap up, I want you to remember a few things. Low-level exercise is a good start. Adding 1 to 2 more vigorous sessions throughout the week is going to be even better if you can do that. Anything that you can do to get your breathing rate up and your heart rate up for at least 10 minutes most days of the week is going to be beneficial. We also need to do that so that we can get in more oxygen and get rid of carbon dioxide and help rid our bodies of free radicals that cause cellular damage in our bodies. There are actually some breathwork sequences and techniques that you can use to support you in doing that. And I've been pairing that with some yoga for the last few weeks, and it's been super powerful in getting my metabolism up and going and releasing things. Suggestions to start with slow and easy and moderate, 50 minutes per week, 3 to 4 times a week, but if you can go every day, 10 to 15 minutes, that's where I'd start. Not sure what to do, pay attention for our blue posts, and I'll be posting some more. But really, guys, just move. Get off our butts and move. So here's your homework. What can you start tomorrow? Maybe it's too late tonight. It's already almost 8:40. What can you start tomorrow? The whole point is just move. Can you commit to finding 10 minutes in your day to get your heart rate and respiratory rate up? Can you commit to a moderate or fast-paced walk after dinner with your family? Can you get 1,000 steps in after dinner? Do you want to try a short burst of exercise for 10 or 15 minutes in the morning before you have your breakfast? Lifting some weights, doing some squats, some sit-ups, some push-ups. Can you integrate walks during your workday around the block at lunch with a buddy at work? Can you do 10 to 15 squats at your desk every hour of your workday to get your blood pumping and to get some large muscle group activity going? Or could you start with some stretching or yoga and combine it with some breath work? So we know that maintaining our weight and losing weight is a complex process that involves genetics, hormones, diet, lifestyle, sleep, physical activity, and stress. So don't neglect the other pillars, but if movement is one of your goals, then pay attention for the blue posts. I hope some of the tips tonight were helpful. The whole point is just get moving. And if you saw one of my recent posts on Instagram, 80% of our future health is in our hands. Only 20% is genetic. So 80%, that's a really big number, and that gives us a lot of power. So I hope that you are able to implement and grow and expand upon the exercise and daily movement that you want to in order to advance your metabolic health. Let me know if you have any questions below. This went way longer than the other ones, but I think it will give you a good foundation on why this pillar is so important. All right, take care, guys.